So after all this time, we finally got another Witherhorn GL, but in legendary form, specifically the Witherhorde if you order it from wish.com. Now, that may seem to be offensive, but something like the Lost Signal and Aerial Denial frame has been desired from the community ever since Witherhorde has been a thing, and yeah, there's a lot to go over. The Lost Signal is a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the value it may have in the PvE sandbox. It's not saying the weapon is trash, but we got some interesting things to say. Even though with that intro, it may seem like I'm not a fan, I'm just kind of frustrated with the timing of a frame like this that should have been in the game for a long time. But in this video, we'll break down all the perks, sharing my thoughts on the GL itself, and then giving you guys a few PvE god rolls that are really fun and viable, even though the PvE sandbox may not favor it that much because rocket assisted frames are just that damn good. But before we jump into all those details, just want to mention if you guys enjoy the content and want more from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to notify for when I do drop more content. So with that being said, let's jump in and talk about the Lost Signal. And this is one of those weapons in Destiny 2, you sit here and just wonder, what took so long? Now, the reason for that is that the PvE sandbox at this point has kind of grown out of the need for a legendary version of the Witherhorn. I guess you could say even a year ago with Lightfall, something like this would have been very valuable to have in the PvE sandbox, but nothing like that existed. And then obviously we have Waveframe grenade launchers like Forbearance at the time. There was definitely an avenue for this weapon to really flourish. And just because I say that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just that if we had it sooner, then personally I may have had a lot more time with it to go nuts before Bungie kind of broke the special weapon meta with those rocket assist frames. And now honestly some snipers. We got some stuff to talk about with Embrace Identity. That video is in the works. But yeah, Lost Signal still rocks, and it being a stasis weapon means that there is an interesting dynamic it can have when you're building your loadout for weapons you want to rock. A lot of times I've definitely seen people favor an energy slot like a solar, arc, void type of exotic primary, or even just a base legendary elemental type like that. Like if you guys like an Ikelos still with Volt Shot and you're mixing with Prismatic, that's a great weapon to pair with Lost Signal, and then you leave your exotic for a main DPS option. I know some people say Thunderlord is not a great DPS option, but don't worry, I think it is. If you guys want to rock a Thunderlord, be my guest, use that. It definitely offers a lot of flexibility with it being stasis, which I do think helps out this weapon a ton. But again, those are just basic thoughts on this archetype, what I think about the weapon in the overall PvE sandbox. Let's showcase all the perks on screen here to kind of go over and talk about, because honestly, there is a good selection. Now, I'm not going to really showcase the barrels here because it's not really important. There's only like 2, maybe 3 you want, but here on screen is all the perks. And starting all the way to the right, we have the Radiolarian Transposer Origin trait. Rapid final blows cause targets to explode into a pool of Radiolarian fluid. Honestly, I don't think that this is valuable here for a weapon like this. It may stack in a good way, but this is one of the few frames or a few weapons that have this Origin trait where I don't really think you see the benefit of Radiolarian Transposer, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, over in column 4, we have Wellspring, High Ground, Unrelenting, One for All, Vorpal, Reverberation, and Demolicious. Now, it's really important to mention that Reverberation has no effect for lingering pools created by the aura of the Aerial Denial frame. So again, I wish it kind of did, but for whatever reason, Bungie chose not to include that benefit. But that's just one thing to mention before we jump into the next column. Now, next to that in column 3, we have Strategist, Stats for All, Quick Draw, Threat Detector, Lead from Gold, Feeding Frenzy, and Auto Loading Holster. And then for your magazines, you have in column 2, you have High Velocity rounds and Implosion rounds. When it comes to the personal preference of a barrel, in this case for grenade launcher, Smart Drift Control is my personal preference. This is craftable, so whatever barrel really gets you going. That's why I'm not really showcasing the frames. I'm probably going to stop doing that from now on when it comes to the barrels of these weapons. But when it comes to god rolls, honestly, it can be a very personal preference here. Now, first up, the main 3 that you'll definitely want to have is Smart Drift Control, High Velocity rounds, and Auto Loading Holster. Especially for grenade launcher, Auto Loading Holster is almost a lock guarantee you should have. But when it comes to filling out that final column, there is a few different options. So the first one will be my personal preference, Wellspring. Grants 8% energy, split equally amongst all uncharged abilities, and when you enhance this, it is 9% ability energy. I personally like this for what I'm looking for if I'm going to use a weapon like this, but again, this is just my personal preference. If you guys want something for health regen, however, Unrelenting is a very good perk. Rapidly defeating enemies triggers a health regen, 65 HP when you trigger an activation. Miners pretty much give you a 1/3 percent towards that activation. Traditionally, ideally, you need 3 minors to activate the health regen, and in elite, mini bosses and mini bosses are an instant activation. Again, those are just some technicalities to understanding Unrelenting. Nothing too crazy, especially for the fact that this is a shoot and forget and will do its job in most content. And then if you guys want some grenade regen, Demolitionist is a go-to. Weapon kills grant 10% energy for your grenade, and then using a grenade ability refills the mag. It's a 3-second cooldown, so if you guys are using maybe a prismatic hunter, this could be something to really mess around and have some fun with. Just a little bit more details with demo. Like I mentioned, reverberation has no effect on the lingering pool, so I don't really care and won't really mention it, at least for the lost signal. But yeah, those are the god rolls. Wellspring, auto loading, high velocity, and smart drift is my personal preference, but using something like Unrelenting or Demolitionist are other god rolls that can really be valuable and useful. Again, it just depends on where and when you want to use this weapon and how you want to use it and for what purpose for your overall build. But in all, I really do love this weapon, even if I feel that it's a little late with the times. Now, does that mean you're going to switch off the rocket assisted frame sidearm like the Call when it comes to the kinetic slot? Probably not, but in general, this is a very fun, diverse weapon that honestly you should craft, you should have in your arsenal. And when a champion mod comes around for grenade launchers, because I do think that's inevitable, this should definitely be a great option. Like maybe overload grenade launcher, something like this will be honestly pretty good because of the lingering pool. You shoot it at an overload and you can really keep a stun going potentially. We'll see how things work on that end, but yeah, there is an avenue for this to be very viable and successful. Depends on some artifact mods in the future, but also right now it may not be that rocket assisted frame, but it is a great choice and option to have in PvE for most content. But yeah, that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video and found this video informative, be sure to drop this video a like, helps out the video a ton. And like I said earlier, if you guys want more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified for when I do drop more content. But with that being said, that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys have a good one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.